some picks for you as well. Scott Kessler is with us, Global Sector Lead, Technology, Media, and Telecommunications at Third Bridge. I'm so glad you're here because people love this group. And in 2020, Zoom was the biggest, best name. Is Zoom still a winner, or are there other names for 2021? I know you have Ping and Smartsheet that you're watching. Are those much better investments than Zoom?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Nicole. And it's great to be back. So the way that I think about 2020 is obviously a lot was driven by COVID, a lot was driven by transitions to the cloud, digital transformation. And Zoom obviously was kind of the poster child for that, where they generated tremendous growth in revenue and in the stock price, honestly. So I think it's fair to say that a lot of people are focused on those cloud software type names. And I would include Zoom in that category. I would include ServiceNow in that category. Both of those companies actually have market caps above $100 billion. So these are already kind of recognized leaders. Other companies that I would highlight that were strong performers in 2020 would include names like CrowdStrike and DocuSign, Workday. These are all names that are $50 billion or so or more, top 20 global software companies in terms of market cap. In terms of themes that I think are worth considering following 2020, you alluded to a couple of ideas that we have, right? So Ping Identity and Smartsheet, they're still benefiting from a lot of the cloud-related growth, and those elements are major drivers of opportunity and revenue for these companies, but they also have what are referred to as kind of hybrid offerings. So they can cater to companies that have more legacy technology infrastructures, as well as those interested in cloud offerings. And so Ping is involved in identity and access management, where Okta is kind of the big player there. And Smartsheet is involved in this kind of, I'd say, work platform area where we've seen Asana go public in the fall. We see a company like Monday.com seen as potentially going public. And we saw a company just this week, Reich, announce that they've agreed to their proposed acquisition by Citrix Systems. So a lot going on around these companies, and we think these are definitely companies to pay attention to in 2021.
That's interesting. So what you're doing is you're picking the names that do similar things, but that haven't been blown out of the water in valuation, basically, right? I mean, so it's not that you don't like Zoom or ServiceNow, but they're, you're talking about over 100 million. Workday, DocuSign, CrowdStrike, you said, are also sort of puffed up a little bit. But names like you just mentioned, Ping Identity and Smartsheet, would be sort of a different version than Okta or the Citrix Rang or Asana. So is that what it is? It's just sort of the names we don't know as much, but doing what's hot.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are two elements to that, right? So one is what you were just saying, which is people don't really know these names as much. They haven't been kind of the standout performers that people are singularly looking at because of their kind of cloud orientation and focus. These are companies that have the cloud piece, but also have the legacy technology piece, which we think from a strategic perspective might be very helpful over kind of the intermediate term, even though I think people may have perceived these kind of operations as restricting overall growth. Yeah. I guess the way to look at it in sum would be, we think these are names that operationally and fundamentally seem to be in the right places, but perhaps are not as recognized accordingly.
Right. Where do some of the other names that you brought to my attention here, FireEye and Fastly, are those both names you like? And if so, why?
Yeah, so what's interesting about both of these names, and honestly, the names that we're highlighting to some extent, is they're just not necessarily binary kind of indications, right? It's not like, hey, these are in cloud software and thus, they're going to go straight to the moon. If you look at a FireEye, for example, so FireEye is a security software company that's been around for a pretty long time. And what's interesting about them is that they're capitalizing, as I think a lot of companies in the security software space are and are poised to, as a result of the SolarWinds hack. And we're getting more and more details about the expanse and the implications of that. But I think it's really kind of causing a lot of companies to redouble their efforts as it pertains to security, protecting their data, protecting their content, protecting their applications, protecting their infrastructure. And so a company like FireEye is well positioned to do a lot of those things. But the other reason that it looks interesting, in our opinion, is that you have an activist involved here. You have two very distinct businesses within FireEye. It wouldn't surprise us in the least if you saw the activists moving for some type of transactional activity that could help unlock value. As it pertains to Fastly, and I know you were talking about that just minutes ago as being a strong performer today, Fastly is a name in what I would call the CDN, or content delivery network space. Leaders there include not only Fastly, but Akamai Technologies, as well as Cloudflare. What's interesting about Fastly is that Fastly was on a fast track in terms of performance. And then over the summer, it was revealed that they were pre-announcing. And one of the primary reasons was their largest customer, TikTok, as you might recall, was the subject of federal government involvement and pressure that caused them to essentially move this business from Fastly to Oracle. Now, it remains to be seen whether that could be revisited, but I think people are realizing that Fastly has a lot of great technology assets. They are well positioned. And even though I think there are some issues around execution beyond simply TikTok, I think the fair thing to say is what they're doing is very in demand and very important and very strategic potentially, not just for customers, but would-be suitors as well.